On summer afternoons in the 1970s, a particular jingle would echo down suburban streets, and children would drop whatever they were doing and sprint for the curb. They weren't just chasing any ice cream truck. They were chasing Jimmy's Joy Freeze, an old-fashioned white and sky blue truck with a hand-painted logo and a line of kids trailing behind like it was the Pied Piper. And behind the wheel, wearing suspenders, a newsboy cap, and a broad smile, was Jimmy Deluca. Jimmy didn't look like the kind of man you'd expect to invent something beloved. He was soft-spoken, often serious, with a habit of furrowing his brow when he thought. But he had charm, the kind that doesn't shout. His presence warmed people, and when he smiled, you felt like everything in the world had tilted just slightly toward good. He was born in 1924, grew up in a working-class Italian family in Buffalo, and joined the war effort before he could legally drink. When he came back from Europe, his neighborhood had changed. Factories were closing, jobs were tight. But he wasn't looking to punch a clock. He had a dream, fuzzy at first, no blueprint, no mentor, just a desire to bring happiness, and he thought it could come in a cone. For 2 years, he worked nights as a dishwasher and spent his days in his cousin's garage, surrounded by metal churners, bags of powdered milk, and a mountain of flavoring extracts. His wife, Maria, supported him the best she could. He read chemistry books, experimented with emulsifiers, and ruined so many batches that the floor of the garage permanently smelled like spoiled vanilla. But one day, he got it right. The texture was velvet. The flavor was bright but deep. It melted slower in the sun and had an aftertaste like roasted sugar and cream. Jimmy had done it. He'd created a soft-serve mix that was simply better than anything else on the market. And he did it without any formal training, using only instinct, obsession, and a stubborn refusal to give up. He called it Joy Freeze. Not because it was catchy, but because, as he later told a local newspaper, people look happier when they eat it, like they remember something from being a kid. At first, it was just one truck, an old laundry delivery van he refurbished by hand. The first summer, he made enough to quit dishwashing. The second summer, he trained 2 friends to drive their own trucks, but made them swear they'd never try to replicate the recipe. By the 5th year, Joy Freeze had become a phenomenon. The trucks expanded across counties. Lines would wrap around parks. A local TV station once filmed kids chanting the jingle like a hymn. Jimmy started calling the entire operation family business, even though many of his drivers weren't related to him by blood. He believed that anyone who handed a kid a cone with care was family. At annual summer gatherings, he cooked for all of them himself. Burgers, sausages, sweet tea, and would raise a toast saying, "To the people who bring joy on 4 wheels." But here was the thing. Jimmy never let go of the formula. Every batch of mix came from a small kitchen behind his house. He would rise at 4 a.m., enter the locked mixing room alone, and emerge hours later with stainless steel canisters labeled and sealed. His assistants could pour, store, and distribute, but they never saw what went in. He refused to patent it. He said patents were loopholes waiting to be stolen. He refused to digitize it. "Computers crash," he said. He didn't even write it in code. The recipe existed only in his mind. Exact measurements, exact steps, exact timing. He once joked that if he were ever kidnapped, the business would collapse. Everyone laughed, then paused. As the years rolled on, he became a local legend. The kind of man people trusted without contracts. People brought their kids to meet him like he was Santa. Brides requested Joy Freeze trucks for their weddings. Retired drivers from other companies offered to work part-time just to wear the pastel uniform. And still, he never shared the secret. In 1991, Jimmy had his first stroke. It was minor, but it shook the foundation. Drivers gathered outside the hospital. Maria pleaded. She told him the business had grown too big to hinge on one man's memory. He nodded, promised to write it down. But he never did. He said he wanted to wait until he was really ready. And when he got better, he returned to the kitchen like nothing had changed. But it had changed. Quietly, anxiety crept in among his circle. One driver began taking small samples of each batch home, hoping to reverse engineer it. Another tried hiring a food scientist from Syracuse. A former assistant tried to mix a close enough version, but it failed miserably. Kids spit it out. Parents complained. The magic was gone. Jimmy kept working, slower now, but focused. He trained no successor. He insisted that sharing the recipe would cheapen it. If everyone can make it, it stops being joy freeze, he said. It just becomes ice cream. Some saw this as pride, others saw it as control, but Jimmy saw it as protection. He believed that spreading the formula would dilute its magic, that someone would find a way to cheapen it, mass-produce it, strip it of its soul. He didn't want joy freeze in supermarkets. He wanted it in neighborhoods, in memories. In 2006, he died in his sleep at age 82. Maria found him in his recliner, TV still on. A legal pad in his lap filled only with sketches of new truck designs. The recipe was nowhere to be found. What followed was a heartbreaking scramble. They searched through filing cabinets, floorboards, bank deposit boxes, even under the kitchen tiles. Some begged Maria to keep the brand alive using a best guess version. But she refused. She knew Jimmy would have hated it. A facsimile was not his legacy. In the final days, they ran the trucks using the last existing canisters. The lines were longer than ever. People came not just for the ice cream, but for what it represented. Innocence, nostalgia, the end of a quiet American dream. On the final night, every truck returned to the lot and parked for the last time. Drivers hugged, cried, and left their caps on the dashboard. Maria walked through the kitchen once more before locking the door. The silence was deafening. Today, joy freeze exists only in memory. A few of the trucks sit in museums. A limited edition cookbook once printed a tribute page, but no one knows the real formula. It lives only in stories passed down by people who once chased that truck down the street. Jimmy Deluca left behind a legacy built on heart, vision, and flavor. But he also left a warning. No matter how brilliant, how beloved, how sacred your creation may be, if it cannot live without you, it may not live at all. Because a legacy, no matter how sweet, cannot survive if the recipe is buried with its maker.